Hi there, good evening everyone. My name is Katie Wiley. We are the food group. Our team includes Stephanie, Christiana, Talia, and Becky. After conducting extensive research and a pestle analysis, we have concluded that the biggest strength of our industry is that everyone has to eat. But unfortunately, the biggest gap in our industry is waste. Waste occurs on several levels of the industry, from production to post-consumer usage. Each of our team members is going to be walking you through a range of different types of food waste that we have identified, starting with Stephanie.
Hi everybody! So just to give you guys some general facts about food waste, 40% of food produced in America goes uneaten. 25% of food bought by Americans ends up being thrown away. That's 20 pounds of food per person per month. Ultimately, this ends up being 33 million tons of landfill waste per year, and it equals $750 million to dispose of it all. From an environmental perspective, food waste equals resource depletion. Getting food to the table uses 10% of the energy budget in the U.S. and 50% of U.S. land. Each time food is wasted, all the resources that went into producing, processing, packaging, and transporting it is wasted too. That's huge amounts of chemicals, energy, fertilizer, and even 25% of the fresh water in America. Just to give you an example, 12,000 gallons of fresh water goes into producing 1 pound of beef. Unfortunately, 33% of all meat products end up in landfills. So our first bullet is water. Landfill waste produces 25% of U.S. methane emissions. Methane is a gas that is 21 times more harmful to the environment than CO2. 14% of greenhouse gas emissions are associated with the growing, manufacturing, transportation, and disposing of food waste. Without accounting for greenhouse gas emissions from land use change, the carbon footprint of all food not eaten is 3.3 gigatons of CO2, making it the third top emitter behind the USA and China. So our second bullet point is gas emissions. And global warming. Finally, uneaten food occupies 1.4 billion hectares of land. That's 30% of the world's agricultural land area. It impacts biodiversity. Its impact on biodiversity is are negative. It magnifies biodiversity loss through monocropping and agricultural expansion into wildlife areas. So, third bullet, land. Here to talk about pre-consumer waste is Christiana.
Thank you, Stephanie. Hi. Okay, so food is wasted in the production phase of food. So there are 3 different stages through which food is wasted. One of them is during farming. So I would say that it's production inefficiencies. So initially, farming is a risk because it's difficult for farmers to first predict how much amount of food to grow exactly, and there's a lot of too much the demand. Sometimes planters grow more crops than they actually end up needing or selling. Also, due to temperatures, pest infestations, disease, different contaminations take place, and it's also a risk that will generate food waste. So farming is the first one. The second stage of food production is when packing.
once the crops have been harvested, the main reason for the losses of fresh produce is to remove foods from the crops due to their physical appearance. So food can be in a good condition, but if it looks not desirable to a consumer, they will not even bother to sell it to bring it to a retail store. So there's already choice, let's say, of which foods are taken to the markets and which are just end up adding to the food waste. Also, there's some machinery that is being used that selects crops. The machinery is not always super accurate, so there can be some mistakes in detecting how ripe or unripe fruit is. So once a fruit has been cut from its tree and it's unripe, it's going to just go bad and die. So the second, so this was for packing. And the third one is processing. Processing facilities generate food losses mostly through trimming. Say they kill an entire beef, and by the time it reaches the market, there are a lot of parts of skin or particular parts of the meat, for example, that have been thrown away. Again, because of the because of how appealing it would be to the consumers. These are edible portions, but they're from food that is in good condition. It also goes to waste. So processing is the third problem that we encounter. So Talia is going to speak about post-production food problems.
Okay, so after having harvested and packaged the crops, the food is ready for the post-production phase. Okay, so transportation of the food is critical, especially with perishable goods that require cold conditions. When they're sometimes not delivered on time, the shipment is rejected. So, moreover, unsold perishable products with expiration dates in the supermarkets are thrown away even though they're still edible. So this is what happens in retail. Third point. Food services, meaning restaurants, cafeterias, fast food, and caterers, tend to overserve and oversized portions with undesirable side orders, which most of the time go to waste. And finally, the last point is in households. Families buy more food than what they actually need, and it gets thrown away with the expiration dates. Katie,
Yes, I'll take this. Thank you. Hi there. I'm going to talk about a different kind of waste. This is waste due to excess calories. Huh? Oh yes, thank you. So one of the most important types of food waste is the consumption of excess calories that leads to obesity. With 1 out of 3 adults clinically obese and 40% of children officially overweight, the U.S. is the heaviest country in the developed world. This public health crisis has led to extreme rates of diabetes, cancer, heart disease, and is predicted to strain our healthcare system to an unfortunate breaking point. Food companies are now considered to be the tobacco industry of the new millennium, constantly evolving new ways to trick us into overeating their products. So some of the tricks that they play include the following. First, they create misleading packaging sizes. So M&Ms, for example, it's a lot harder to guess what a single serving size of M&Ms is when you purchase a quote-unquote family-size bag versus one that has been packaged as an individual serving size. The second trick that the big food companies play on us is misleading packaging language. So, for example, the label low fat. Studies have shown that this language actually leads to the overconsumption of nutrient-poor foods because consumers mistake low fat for low calorie and generally feel less guilty of eating more than the designated portion size. And lastly, the last big trick that food companies employ is something called the bliss point. So, how many of us have ever eaten something and thought, oh, I just have to have more of it? So that moment is what food companies are calling the bliss point, which is the result of altering food ingredients to the point of addiction. The whole idea is to get us hooked and coming back for more. Given that only 10 companies control our globe's food supply, and their power over our consumption is significant, the biggest gap within this category of waste is the opportunity to provide more straightforward food solutions that consumers are starting to ask for. I'm going to pass the baton to Becky.
So we've talked about 3 different types of waste, which were resource depletion, pre-production inefficiency, post-production inefficiency, and consumption of excess calories. So I'm going to talk about some innovative solutions that some other businesses have done. The first one is fertilizer. So food waste can actually be transformed into a natural fertilizer. A business in California takes waste from supermarkets and transform it into liquid fertilizers that the farmers can afford to use. The idea is to turn waste food into something useful, which improves the quality of the soil and stimulates root growth. The second one is renewable energy. So food waste can also be digested to generate renewable energy. There's a company initiated an innovative method of reducing the amount of food waste reaching landfills while simultaneously producing renewable energy. So if 50% of the food waste generated each year in the US has digested, enough electricity would be generated to power over 2.5 million homes for a year. The third one is tracking food shipments. It's a common problem that sometimes we find fruits and vegetables in the grocery stores that are overripe, and that produces millions of dollars worth of food waste each year in the US. So researchers at Sensor University invented battery-free smart sensor to track and tell the condition of the packaged food during their shipping journey. As a result, rejected food could be safely trucked from the farm to the store, and overripe foods might be spared trip to the local landfill. And then the fourth one is making food last longer. So in London, there's this business called Snack, which makes fruit jerky, which is basically dried out fruit juice. And the process takes about 8 hours and produce a product that could last for 6 months with no preservatives. And the fifth one is social sharing. So in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, a small group of people search for discarded food from markets and other business to use for a communal dinner called grub that they prepare twice a month. And another example is a Germany internet platform that gives members a chance to connect with other food sharers online. And the food sharers would share food that they cannot finish or leftover from parties or strangely shaped vegetables. So that's our presentation. Thank you.
This is the food group signing off for the evening. Everyone here, yeah, we're all here. Thank you so much for making it through our presentation. We look forward to building a business that addresses some of these food waste issues. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.
Bye.